Be happy in every situation, the story of Serena. In a quaint little village nestled among rolling green hills, there lived an elderly woman named Serena. She resided alone in a small, weathered wooden house, cozy and full of charm. Each spring, her garden bloomed with vibrant flowers, and each afternoon, gentle smoke curled from her chimney. Though Serena had no family of her own, she was never truly alone. Her heart was far too warm, her voice too gentle, and her kindness far too genuine for anyone to ignore. The villagers adored her, not just because she was helpful, but because she truly cared. People often came by her house to chat, ask for advice, or simply share small joys and troubles of daily life. Serena always listened with patience and responded with wisdom. In return, neighbors would bring her hot meals, fresh vegetables, or bundles of firewood for the winter. Her life was simple, but rich in connection. For Serena, happiness had never been extravagant. It lived in laughter, in warm soup on a cold day, and in the quiet peace of knowing she was loved. One chilly autumn morning, Serena wrapped a worn woolen scarf around her neck and decided to head into the forest to gather more firewood. She loved the rustle of fallen leaves beneath her feet and the crisp scent of the changing season. The path through the woods was familiar, one she'd walked many times, but that day, it held a surprise she never expected. As she ventured deeper into the trees, something unusual caught her eye. Half buried beneath the leaves and soil was an old iron pot. Intrigued, Serena brushed away the dirt and slowly opened the lid. Her breath caught in her throat. Inside the pot were glimmering gold coins, stacked high, gleaming in the dappled sunlight. For a moment, she sat frozen, overwhelmed. Visions filled her mind, a new, sturdy house, a plush chair by the fireplace, warm evenings wrapped in comfort she'd never dared imagine. But reality quickly returned. The pot was far too heavy for her to carry. Still, Serena was never one to give up easily. She retraced her steps to an old tool shed by the edge of the forest and gathered some wooden planks she had stored there last winter. She fashioned a makeshift sled and tied a thick piece of cloth around the pot. Slowly and steadily, she began dragging it toward her home, each step driven by hope and dreams of a better life. The journey was rough. The forest floor was uneven, and her hands ached from gripping the cloth. But she kept going. When she finally paused to rest, she looked inside the pot, and her heart dropped. The brilliant gold had turned to silver. Disappointment crept in, but Serena quickly caught herself. "Silver is still precious," she whispered. "I can still buy a warm home, a decent chair, and live in comfort." She wiped the sweat from her brow, lifted her chin, and resumed pulling. The forest thickened, and the path became steeper. Serena's legs trembled, and her breath grew shallow. She stopped again, hands trembling as she peered into the pot. This time, the silver had changed into dull iron. Her chest tightened. The dreams she had built step by step now seemed to melt away into rust. She sat down heavily beside the path, the weight of loss pressing down harder than the pot ever had. But as she sat in the quiet of the woods, something shifted. Serena began to think not of what she had lost, but what she still had. She pictured her little cottage, the soft woolen blanket a neighbor had knitted for her, the aroma of stew shared by kind hands, the giggles of children who often visited to hear her stories. Perhaps, she thought, she had never truly been lacking. With a deep breath, Serena stood up. She left the iron-filled pot exactly where she had found it, deep in the forest where dreams often become illusions. Her heart lighter than it had been in hours, she walked the familiar path back home, not with regret, but with clarity. When she opened the creaky wooden door, the scent of dry herbs and warmth of home embraced her like an old friend. She stirred the ashes in the fireplace, lit a small flame, poured herself a cup of hot tea, and settled into her familiar wooden chair. No gold, no silver, no iron, just the quiet joy of returning to what truly mattered. And in that moment, Serena knew, happiness is not something we find at the end of a long road. It's something we can choose, here and now, in the life we already have. From that day on, Serena lived as if the golden pot had never appeared. She continued to help neighbors, tell stories to the children, and tend to her flowers with care. Her days were stitched together with peace and purpose. The villagers came to admire her even more, not just for her kindness, but for the quiet strength and serenity she carried in her smile. Years passed, and the tale of Serena and the pot that changed became a cherished story told across the village. No one could say for sure if the pot had been real or just a symbol, but everyone remembered Serena's calm gaze and the peace that radiated from her. Whenever someone felt disheartened or overwhelmed by desires unfulfilled, they would whisper her name and recall her choice, to walk away from illusion and toward inner peace. Serena never had gold. She never lived in luxury. But she had something far more lasting, the love of her community, the richness of a grateful heart, and the kind of happiness that cannot be bought or stolen. And in the end, that made her the wealthiest woman the village had ever known. She didn't leave behind jewels or treasures, but something far greater, a simple truth. Happiness doesn't come from what we gain, but from how we live, even in the simplest of days. To be happy in every situation is to be richer than any pot of gold ever could make you.